Hello, so we're obviously live because I've seen your comment. So I'll just wait for a few more people to get in. I'll be streaming for about an hour tonight, I think. But it depends what comes up and everything. Well, I've not been brilliant today because I've had a hangover for most of today, but I think that's pretty much gone now. But that's completely my own fault. Lesson learned as usual. Alright, glad you enjoy them then, great spy crab. Cool, is that, Ash, is that one, the, like Northern Ireland style one I've got, or is it like the more modern ones? And sorry to hear that, Garrett. Yeah, is that, Ash, the, like green one like I've got, or is it the more modern ones? Alright, cool, so it's the one like I've got, although I think there's two Northern Ireland versions, isn't there? I've got the first generation one, and I think the second generation one's very similar, but it's got a, like, space for a trauma plate, or like a reinforced plate in it. I haven't heard anything about that Brutal God. I've had a couple of people mention it, but, you know, like, not actually mentioning details. They've just said zombie deer, and that's all they've said. Yeah, the British flak jackets, the first generation one is almost the same as the Vietnam flak jacket. I think they were made under license. It essentially is the US Vietnam flak jacket with a couple of minor changes to it. So sometimes you'll see films where they're set in Vietnam and they're using the British flak jackets. Or it's vice versa, where it's a thing about the British Army sort of around the period of the Falklands War. But they're actually wearing American flak jackets because I guess whichever surplus was cheaper for the, like, you know, studio to buy or whatever is what they did, because they look pretty similar. I already said about my day at the beginning of the stream. Depends. Surplus trousers more often than other bits of surplus clothing, so I can't remember if I've said this before on the streams. I probably have. But the thing I like about surplus trousers is the pocket layout. Now there are some brands of obviously like not military trousers, like some cargo trousers that do have the same sort of pocket layouts. But in general, if you're driving or doing anything like that, regular sort of like jeans or whatever are awful for that. I actually, well, if it's a really good pancake, then pancakes, but waffles are easier to cook at home and everything. Don't know what you mean by DB shotguns. You mean double-barreled shotguns? If you're on about double-barrel, I prefer over-under rather than side-by-side. Alright, Richard? Not sure if I said hello already to you. Yeah, well, GP5s and some, like, think masks like the Czech CM3 are not really expensive masks, so it's not surprising that you can get them for that sort of price. Yeah, Dutch use DPM as well. The Dutch DPM is the same colour as the older British DPM. The reason British 95 DPM was a darker colour was because they thought that made it work better against infrared scopes. So basically it's got a bit of a stronger contrast between the colours of the DPM 95, but other than that, they're exactly the same as far as I'm aware. I'm assuming some sort of magazine-fed auto shotgun, Tom, or something like an AA-12 or whatever, but no idea. Well, single-shot shotguns are fine if you're using it for like a non-military purpose. If you're just using bird or buckshot with it, there's not really any problem with it. No, it's because I've been having a lot of insomnia recently, Mike, and typically my GP doesn't actually want to give me any sort of tablets to do with it, so I found on some nights I can drink a bit and then go to bed and I sleep a bit better, which I know isn't a brilliant thing to do. And it was just a case of last night I'd had a bit before I went to bed, and then at like 1 or 2 in the morning I still wasn't asleep, so I, you know, drank some more, and I obviously just drank too much. So you know, got all the room was spinning kind of stuff an hour later or whatever, and then when I woke up today, was, you know, had a sort of headache for quite a while, felt a bit nauseous and everything. But that's faded as the day's gone on. No point asking me, Thomas, about all these firearms questions because I'm in the UK. Yeah, I've got quite a lot of flex arm stuff. No, I don't have any boonie caps. I know which ones you mean, like the big sort of floppy caps. I just find lighters quite interesting, especially if they're ones you can get for cheap. Well, Tiger 1 compared to both tanks, but if you're on about mass production and like, you know, ease of, you know, on logistics, then obviously the T-34. But the Sherman was probably the best tank of the war in terms of quality of the individual tanks and, you know, production scale of them. That will be the radiator on the computer, because that radiator cooler on there is a couple of years old now on the water cooler. It ticks a bit like, you know, internal old house radiators do. In theory you can pop the air bubbles out of those, but it's a lot of effort and it doesn't always seem to work, and sometimes when I've tried it I think I'm always damaging the radiator by sort of smacking it, so... If anybody's asking lots of questions that are covered by my videos, I'm not going to bother asking them in the stream because there's an FAQ below and you can simply search up some of the videos to actually see a proper explanation of the things there. Yeah, I've played all the Dark Souls games, but I prefer Demon Souls to Dark Souls, which is From Software's earlier sort of Souls game. I've played Bloodborne as well, but I don't own it because I don't have a PS4. I haven't played all of Bloodborne, I've just played a bit of it at a friend's house. The numbers are very different than 4 T-34s to every Tiger. Let me look these up, but it's more like a dozen T-34s. Right, let's see if I can get a production number on it. Let's look up the Tiger one. Okay, there was 1,347 Tiger tanks built, as in Tiger 1s. Now let's look up the T-34-85. And there is 84,070 T-34-85, sorry, 84,070 T-34s built total. 48,950 T-34-85s built. So that's almost 49,000 as a ballpark figure for the T-34-85. So yeah, there's like 48 to 1, 49 to 1 when it comes to T-34s on Tigers. As said, Germans did not understand logistics in World War II. In terms of how ghetto it looks, the Bob Simple tank's amazing, but obviously the Tiger tank in every way is a better tank. The Bob Simple doesn't really even have an anti-tank gun on it, does it? It's just machine guns on a bit of corrugated steel, really, isn't it? I've reviewed something a bit like that before, SS. I've reviewed a thing before that's like a power bank and a flashlight and a like lighter all combined into one. It's probably in one of my drawers somewhere, but I don't find that one particularly good, to be honest. I got that one from D&B Militaria, but interestingly enough, I was looking at Weapon Collector's catalogue nostalgia thing he put up yesterday, and if you were to buy from Worldwide Arms, I think it was, wasn't it, Mike, an SLR now, they're nearly £1,000, they're like £995, and that's not even old spec ones. They were something crazy like that now. Well, I'm streaming right now, Thomas, so it doesn't matter when I'm streaming next. Oh, have they still not closed yet, Mike? Because for some reason I thought they'd already closed. Ah, that sounds good, Mike. I'll watch that video when you put it up as well. And as I've said quite a few times, like random 12 FPS, with streaming at the moment, I'm doing webcam streams again at the moment just because more people watch them. Like I've got 30 people watching now. Whereas if I was doing a game stream, I'd have like 10 people watching. And sometimes they demonetize the game streams as well for some stupid reason, so that doesn't help me at all either. I think it was over £300. I can't remember how much over 300 it was though. It wasn't 400. It was over 300, but I can't remember if it was like 350, 370. But regardless, it was 300 odd something that when I bought the FAL, and that was back in I think 2012 or 2013. So in the in the space of a few years, they've gone up by yeah, like triple the price really. Nah, no, because the thing is, when I'm doing webcam streams, I like Q&A streams. When I'm playing a game, it's for the sake of playing a game. Makarov, because it's in 9x 18mm, so it's like a more modernised cartridge. As much as I know that the TT33 has a cartridge that's got better penetration power. I did it on one live video, it looked pretty good, but it's a pain in the arse to keep getting it out, so I don't need the softbox for this. Because I've got two lights on, I've got the ceiling light on, and I've got a bright light on over there. The colours don't look too washed out, and the webcam's not that high quality, so as much as it looks better by using the softbox, there's not really any point in setting it up just for doing a video with. It's also impossible for me to put the softbox behind the webcam. I'd have to have it coming in from the side. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it's something like that, that you obviously have to have more things to be able to purchase a real one, where a deactivated one you can just stick it wherever, as long as you don't do anything really stupid with it. An interesting thing a bit like that I read, T55, was that in lots of old, like, westerns, as in like Wild West films, made in the US, in the 20th century, like all the John Wayne type ones, and probably all like the Sergio Leone ones as well, lots of the time when there's people with cavalry swords and things like that in, that's actually real Civil War surplus, because it was really cheap buying the Civil War surplus compared to what it would actually cost to, like actually mock up the swords, so they literally just bought surplus swords because they were so cheap. I'd say China, in China versus Japan, but I still don't think China's force projection is as good as they want it to, want to claim it is. No, I don't do boxing or MMA. I used to do judo at one point, but then I got bored of that. Anybody talking about illegal stuff's going to get a block, so I'm going to delete some comments if you do them again. You'll get a block, just to warn you. Don't talk about illegal content. I really don't want it on my streams. Read the FAQ, Great Spy Crab Gamer. Otherwise I'm just repeating myself over and over. Out of the helmets actually made in World War One, you know, like the proper helmets, rather than like, you know, the cloth caps people had before then, probably the French Adrian helmet, because where it had the weld on the top, that was a really big weak spot in the helmet. So you can find some pictures where there's like dead soldiers where shrapnel actually would go through the like, you know, middle ridge of the helmet. Because wool's a pretty outdated material when you can get synthetic materials. I've not ever seen a lynx as far as I'm aware. I've seen a red squirrel when I was in Scotland. That was quite interesting. I'm trying to think other than deer, if there's anything. Obviously, like I see badgers and foxes now and again. Yeah, I think probably a red squirrel's the most interesting of all like the wild animals I've seen. Helmets are for shrapnel, that's their purpose. As far as I'm aware, the most easy way of telling when a US helmet has been made is to look at the production dates on the inside. Now obviously if they've worn off or you can't see those, I can't help you. I'm sure there are sites that document all that, but I'm not that interested in helmets. So I really couldn't tell you, you know, if the liner colour changed at a certain point or they changed the strap design ever so slightly on the M1s. Or shitting joggers, eh, Mike? Well, any helmet's better than no helmet when it comes to head collisions, but obviously the main purpose of a helmet is shrapnel protection and very basic ballistic protection on modern helmets. Probably the M14, because the M14 had so many problems and it was only adopted by the US because of protectionism. No, shrapnel does not go right through helmets. Helmets are specifically designed to protect from shrapnel. Yeah, it's like the old tank helmets that are the like either foam ones or the like leather ones. You know, where they're designed obviously to stop you like banging your head quite nastily on a lot of the sort of surfaces in the vehicle. Yeah, all World War II helmets will protect you from shrapnel. That is why they were designed. In World War I, the army started introducing helmets because soldiers were getting ripped to shreds by shrapnel. I think you're actually trolling at this point, I can't actually tell. But if you look at why armies introduced helmets in the modern era, it's shrapnel. Because when you have artillery shells airbursting, the shrapnel comes down and it goes right through your head if you don't have a helmet. That's why helmets were introduced. And you can actually watch videos on YouTube where people shoot old World War II helmets with 9mm 45 ACP. You'd be surprised how well some of them will also stop bullets at like 10 yards. They're not going to stop repeated bullets, but you know, the point's there that is literally why helmets existed, to stop shrapnel. And I'd argue things like wood splinters and brick and masonry splinters coming off from explosions is shrapnel as well. Oh, exactly, that's what I was just saying. That's why they went to helmets, because having cloth caps offered no protection, and artillery was actually the biggest killer in World War I. Why do you mean except bats? Why do we have to make an exception for bats? That's a bit bat-phobic, isn't it? Probably dogs, to be honest. Right, I've had enough of you, thank you. I assume the 69 stamp then is 1969 when it was built. No, I don't have any dogs myself because I couldn't really afford... Well, I mean, I probably could, but I wouldn't want the expenditure of having a dog, to be honest. I really like dogs, but, you know, the thing is that you obviously have to have health insurance for them, really, to cover vet bills, because obviously they can run up massive vet bills if you don't have insurance for them. You'd have to, like, walk them really regularly, and although I do like going out and walking dogs, it's one of those things where I imagine if you have a dog, it then becomes a bit of a nuisance at times. Well, I've got really into spaniels because one of my friends' families always has spaniels. And spaniels are quite social dogs as well. But I like German shepherds as well and everything. Nah, not really got anything planned tomorrow. I might do a stream tomorrow, and it might be in the sort of morning to early afternoon time, I don't know yet. I might be going and seeing a friend for part of the day, but it depends what his workload's like, because at the moment he's got a load of stuff he needs to get done, so we haven't, like, confirmed anything for definite. Yeah, for people that keep asking questions that are FAQ related, like Richard says, just read the FAQ. If you're not going to bother reading the FAQ, I'm not going to spell it out for you. Yeah, I'll definitely send you a Twitter message, Mike, if I'm going to be doing a stream. I might put one on the, what's it called as well? Like where I did the other day, the YouTube community post thing. I don't know if people actually see those, but I might as well. You know, might get more people on that wouldn't be on otherwise. But yeah. Yeah, community tab, that's the thing I'm thinking. At least I found out now how to easily make the community post. You click the thing like you're going to upload a video, and then it's an option on there. I'm glad I help you with that, Angel, but that's one of those things where if you actually have proper depression, you should probably see a doctor about getting SSRIs or something, but I'm glad you enjoy the content anyway. So you can never tell when people say stuff like that if they're being serious or joking. Got 35 people watching, but I've not got any comments coming in now. Despite the fact I've not got slow mode on. Right, I'm glad you enjoyed the videos though. Yeah. And that's cool. It's just sometimes it's weird. You get a load of questions and you have to rush to catch up with them, and then other times you get no questions at once. When you say to finish M39s, do you mean the gas masks or the are you thinking of something else? Or do you mean the Moss in the Gant? Bill hook. The bill hook I've got that Richard Weaponsmith made, I think that would work fine on a bear. Not that I'd really want to fight a bear, but I'd put faith in his bill hook. Well, what I've actually got coming that's not arrived yet is a PBF mask without the filters. Oh, and an important note on the PBF, I was wearing one yesterday and then somebody posted on my Patreon Discord server where somebody's taken like microscopic pictures of them, and it looks like it's got asbestos in, you know, which is something we thought could have been the case because it's a Soviet filter obviously, but I've never seen lab reports on them, but yeah, it looks like there's probably asbestos in PBF filters, so for people who've got PBFs, probably don't wear it with the filters in. But I've got, yeah, the PBF coming, and two PDF, I think it's PDF Model Ds, I'm not sure, with the hoses missing for me to sort of do a repair job, modification job on. That's cool, Jack. Yeah, my one's number 1 Mark III, I think it is. The PRWU is the rocket fueling one, so it's like the SHMS but with more protection on it. So basically it's like the voice diaphragm's got a cover on that probably mutes your voice a bit more, but it's designed so stuff can't splash onto the plastic. And I think the like valve assembly at the bottom's got like some sort of rubbery cover on it as well. The whole point of it was, you know, like they're working with more volatile chemicals, so it has to offer a better level of protection. Well, a mace is pretty damn effective at bludgeoning people in armour. Are we assuming that we're in a scenario where we have armour as well? That sounds absolutely lovely. You know, I love classic rifles like that. There's one I really like, and I can't remember what it's called, but if I find a picture I'm going to have to print it off. But what it is, it's a German World War II, so like a Nazi German propaganda sort of thing. And it's sort of saying, you know, I think it's one of the ones saying, you know, black out your sort of lights, you know, because like the British will bomb you. And it's got, I think it's a Lancaster bomber with like a skeleton throwing a bomb out of it, going like that. It's quite a cool picture. Let's see if I can find it on Google, and then I'll post a picture in the stream if I can find it. Oh, I found it. Okay. Let me get this one up. It's not going to be a Lancaster because it's only got 2 engines on it. But, let me just save the picture and then I'll post it in the stream. Okay, bear with me 1 second. Alright, okay. It's this picture. That's probably my favourite propaganda picture. Let me put on the other side so it's not in the way of my face. So hopefully that's come up on the video now. Yeah, there we go. So obviously what it's saying is turn off the lights. But, you know, the evil eternal Anglo with the skeleton bombers. I really like that image. Yep, I've got on my channel this finished civilian gas mask of World War II. In terms of military masks, I'm assuming they use something like the, probably like the GM30 from Germany. Anyway, I'll get rid of the picture now because I'm sure you've all seen it and you don't want it blocking the frame. CBRN suits, I can try and tally them up. I know I've got 2 British Mark IV suits, but we'll just count, we won't count duplicate suits. So I've got British Mark III suit, oh I've got, no sorry, it's 2 British Mark III suits I've got, not 2 British Mark IVs, but anyway. So British Mark III suit, British Mark IV suit in woodland, camo, the Polish Fu-1 suit, whatever it's called, the really modern Polish one, that's in camo. A West German or like modern German NBC suit from pretty much the reunification period of Germany sort of time. An East German NBC suit, the 1-piece one, and the East German suit in the 2 pieces. And the 1st and 2nd generation Polish suits, I think it's L1 and L2 suits. And the DuPont Taichem suit, like the orange one that keeps making the crinkly noises when you walk with it. So you have to add up how many I just said then, but that's all the suits I have, unless I'm somehow forgetting some. Oh, and I've got the emergency poncho thing that's quite funny. You know, like the big human condom. I've only got one Swiss gas mask. I have... Is it called the SM67 without looking? Because I think there's two. It's like either something like the SM67, the SM73, or something like that, or the SM69, the SM73. I can't remember what the exact numbers are without looking. And basically they're both almost exactly the same as the XL valves in a different position and slightly different, but they're otherwise the exact same mask, and I have the earlier gen of it. The British Mark 6 helmet, the problem with it was, well, there's two versions. There's the Mark 6 and the Mark 6A. For all accounts and purposes, the Mark 6A is meant to be a much better helmet because it's got a lot more Kevlar in it, but the problem with the regular Mark 6 helmet is the one that's like olive coloured, is there's no Kevlar in it, even though it was produced in the period where most nations were moving on to Kevlar helmets. So Britain before had all the steel pot helmets, which were decent enough. Then they went to the Mark 6 helmets, which were all ballistic nylon. And ballistic nylon isn't awful, because flak jackets used to be made out of it, but for whatever reason, there obviously wasn't enough ballistic nylon in this helmet. So they went from having steel helmets that were actually, you know, effective at stopping shrapnel and everything, and pistol bullets at slightly longer ranges, obviously wouldn't stop rifle bullets, to a helmet that everything would go through. You can watch loads of tests on YouTube where people shoot even things like 22 long rifle and, you know, like weak pistol calibers at the Mark 6 helmet, and it just goes straight through. So, you know, it offered less protection than a lot of the steel helmets. And there was also lots of problems apparently where you couldn't lay flat with it because it would, I think, the body armour at the back would push on the back of the helmet, then the helmet would go forwards, and then the helmet would block, you know, you using your scope on your rifle. In terms of all the gases of World War I, phosgene was the most effective because it had an 85%. Basically, all of the gases used in World War I, 85% of the deaths came from phosgene. Phosgene by far was the most effective combat gas. The Mark 7 is definitely better, but apparently the Mark 7, Tumbo was saying, is still not a you know, fully Kevlar style helmet. Like out the two most modern helmets I have are a British Mark 7 and the UK like rip-off of the Pascut they call the Commando helmet that the armed police use. Now the Commando helmet's actually rated properly for 3A, it's Kevlar 3A, you know, it's been submitted for all the tests and it's, you know, done that. The Mark 7 they won't actually submit to have properly tested to Kevlar standards. So there's lots of questions about how effective it actually was. Now it's definitely better than the Mark 6 helmet, because there's again videos where people test them and it certainly does better than the Mark 6 helmet. It's also a much nicer shaped helmet than the Mark 6, you know, it's cut better so it fits your head more snugly. And the Mark 7 also has a better liner system and everything in, so all accounts and purposes the Mark 7 is a much better helmet than the Mark 6. However, it's no Pascut style helmet. You know, compared to what a lot of nations are using, it's supposedly still inferior. They're replacing that with an American helmet now, but again, that's still only a 3A helmet that's, you know, equivalent of a lot of the other helmets. The modern American helmets are very interesting because they're actually made out of, I think, what they call thermoplastic, and that's meant to have a, you know, rating that's equivalent or better to Kevlar 3A, but it's a much lighter helmet. I really like British DPM, as I've said quite a lot of times. You probably, if you've watched my videos enough, you'll know I really like the Stalker games. Well, the military one's called the PMK, not the GP7. I think they're on the PMK3 now. So, yeah, the PMK is in military service, but most soldiers have the more modern PMKs, not the, like PMK1. I know what you mean by it's a long way to Tipperary, which I'm really butchering. Yeah, but I know the song. Right, see ya. Yeah, 3A body armour is very good against pistol rounds. The problem is it's not going to stop rifle rounds. I think it sometimes stops rounds like the 5.7 pistol round, sometimes it doesn't. You know, that's where you kind of get to the, you may be lucky if you're wearing the armour, you may not, and there's probably a lot of factors then that play into if you'd survive or not. But yeah, against conventional pistol rounds like 9mm, 45 ACP, you know, a lot of those, 3A body armour is pretty damn good. But as he's shown in a lot of his videos, it's not going to protect you from 5.56 or 7.62 Soviet, 7.62 NATO. I think he said in one of his videos, if you're behind enough cover and then you're wearing the armour, potentially it could protect you. You know, if there's enough distance, cover, and then you're wearing the armour. But if you're just stood in the open, it's not going to protect you from any rifle rounds. You need a trauma plate in your armour for that. Well, when you say AK-47, I assume you mean an AKM. I'd pick the AKM over the SKS, just because the AKM's magazine fed. But I like the AK-74 more than the AKM. Well, whichever filters, the more comprehensive filter with the longer date on it. If they're both about the same price and the same expiry date, and they're both sealed in a similar way, it wouldn't make any difference. But if one's got a much longer date on than the other, or one's far cheaper, get whichever the better value filter is. Yeah, I remember you making some comments yesterday, Alfie. Yeah, lots of people on here have said they've wanted things like that. I know there's a 3D printed thing you can do for that. But because a lot of people obviously don't own 3D printers, you have to find somebody who's got a 3D printer and then order it from them. And I've heard they can be pretty hit or miss, because I think the thing is as well, with something like a 40mm NATO to 40mm GOST adapter, you're probably going to need an O-ring somewhere in there as well, to make it really secure. You know, without an O-ring it's not going to work all that well. Then I think you can get the Vietnamese surplus PIF helmets, can't you, still for about £30? Trying to think, I'm sure the NVA, like North Vietnamese Army from the Vietnam War ones, you can get for like £20 to £30 on eBay still. But they're the only like surplus PIF helmets I know of. Most nations now don't use PIF helmets because obviously they don't really offer any head protection. When it comes to shrapnel or debris or anything like that, a PIF helmet is not going to stop your head getting ventilated. I'm sure you could find an O-ring that works, because I've put random O-rings in and got it working where you can force a NATO filter onto a GP5. So yeah, I'm sure if you're in somewhere that has lots of different size O-rings, that wouldn't be a hard bit. It's just, you know, you are going to need an O-ring or a seal, whatever you want to call it. Because with just a metal adapter, it's probably not going to be airtight. That's cool. Which of those masks is your favourite then, Alfie? Out of those, I'd say the FM12 is my favourite. But the 4A1, the Israeli one, is actually quite a good mask. I'd rather use a GP5 as long as I had a filter that would fit it. That's like a modern filter. Because I actually trust the GP5 more than the GSR, sadly. Yeah, North Vietnamese Army and National Volks Army. But yeah, they're different countries' armies. Yeah, you literally just stretch a GP5 over your head and then it's on. I know the exact mask you mean. It's like the one that's like a enclosed baby's crib thing, isn't it? It's like you put the baby in it, you tie the bottom of the thing up, and then you use the pump on the side. Oh, I'm dominating the market now, am I? Hopefully within the next week I can start looking into doing merchandise for all the people I mentioned that to. I was meant to be doing some of the designs today with one of my friends who's the artist, but he's still finishing up with a commission, so he's not got time to do it yet, but hopefully by next week he's hoping to have that all wrapped up. And then, yeah, we can start doing gas mask type things on t-shirts and hoodies and mugs and whatever. I'm trying to think now what the oldest filter I've breathed through. I've definitely breathed through some probably from the 70s. Not that I'd ever recommend that, but I'm sure I've done it. So I've breathed through a whole host of Soviet filters, not that I'd ever recommend doing that. Yeah, I'm having a good evening. Wasn't having a brilliant morning, but I'm having a good evening now. I feel back to normal again. Yeah, well, we're gonna try and not put it at a silly amount of money, because obviously we want it to be at a price. That's a foul, not a G3. We want it to be at prices where obviously people would want to buy it. And I'm probably going to use Teespring, because that's what Mike's using, and he said that's quite good. Yeah, like saying, because one of my friends has done a lot of graphic design and does a lot of art stuff, he's really wanting to do it, because what I've said to him is whatever, you know, I make, he can have half and I can have half if he draws up all the designs, and that's fair. And he's quite looking forward to that, because then it's obviously passive income. And if you've got sources of passive income as well as working, that's really nice, because it just means, you know, you've got a bit of extra money flowing in all the time. For the people say, that'd be very cool, Reaper, if you actually get one made. But yeah, what I will be buying at some point, and it's one of those things I don't really need, but I'm very tempted, as I think I was saying in this last live stream. I've got this watch at the moment, which I do really like. It's a Seiko Kinetic, and I've got like a stainless steel band on it now. But it's got no loom on it, which I really don't like, because it's more of a dress watch. So I'm thinking, although I do have quite a lot of quartz, you know, watches with the loom and everything, I'm thinking I'm just gonna shell out and buy a diver's watch. Like, obviously not a Swiss chronograph, but because the problem with my Vostok, I have a part that keeps coming loose in the Vostok, so as much as I would just use the Vostok, the loom on the Vostok's not very good, and this part keeps coming loose, so I'll be forever taking the case back off, trying to retighten the screw, you know, put it back together, and then it won't be very long before it loosens up again, because I don't have the right tools to actually, you know, redo the screw inside the Vostok. So, well, you don't necessarily have to get a Ukrainian NBC suit. You can get a Polish one or an East German one. On UK eBay at the moment, you can buy East German NBC suits for £10 with free postage. So I'd recommend that to anybody who's looking for an NBC suit. So yeah, if you're looking for an NBC suit and you don't really care about the type, let me just type in, let me tell you exactly what you search on ebay.co.uk to get it up. Right, if you search NBC suit, for me, it's like the 6th or 7th one down. German Army surplus one-piece heavy-duty NBC hazmat rubber suit, pre-owned, $9.99, free postage, buy it now, 112 sold. And it's, yeah, the one-piece East German NBC suit, so for 10 quid you cannot go wrong with that, because, you know, you can use it in horribly wet weather, you can use it in snowy weather, you could use it while you're painting or something, and so if you get paint on it. I actually filmed a video today talking about practical things you can do with an NBC suit, you know, if you actually weren't using it for proper CBRN use, but you bought one, you know, just for practical uses. Yeah, that's a shame, Rich. I wonder if there's any alternative you can do to that. I don't know how easily I can link that, because the problem is that on eBay, if I click on it, it's going to be a really long URL, and I don't know how well that's going to post in the comments. But I'll give you the exact thing to search into eBay, and you should find it. I might be able to link you actually to the surplus store that's selling it, because it's Surplus and Lost, which I've bought from before. It might be that their shop URL is a lot shorter. Yeah, it is. Okay, here you go. Right. Here is the shop URL. So if you click that link there, go onto that eBay store, go on their items for sale, you'll find it. I'm just looking what else they've got in at the moment. I'm assuming the Osprey armour they've got doesn't have the armour panels in. But that's still a fairly good price for the entire rig setup, $47.99. Just reading the thing on that now. Yeah, 4 SA-80 ammo pouches, 2 large 8 magazine pouches, 2 brassards, 1 bout. Yeah, they do not have the armour or filler panels, but we do occasionally stock them. That's still not a bad price if you wanted a good, like, rig carrier though, because the Osprey armour is actually pretty good, from what I've heard. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked now. I'm not going to be getting a bunker. I said this in the last stream, just go on eBay, type in RD40 filters and see what cheap multi-purpose ones come up. In terms of winter trousers, there's 2 things I'd recommend. Although you have just reminded me of something. I want to see when something's arriving, because there's something I bought on eBay, speaking of trousers. I did buy on eBay some waterproof trousers recently. Does it say when these are meant to be arriving? Ah yeah, it says from tomorrow, that's cool, so not over the period yet. In terms of like, so did you say cold weather trousers? Winter trousers. Actual surplus. Well, what I like is just like regular military trousers, but what you do is you wear underneath them long johns, which I've talked about before. So you wear these over your boxers, and then you wear the trousers over the top of these, and they keep your legs really warm and snug. By having a job, Tobias, or Tobias. It's all legal stuff, if that's what you're asking. I've seen the Absolute Mad Lads video on him, yeah. The Count Dankula one. So yeah, don't let him feel your muscles. Depends which British stereotype you're on about, because there's several. All of them like completely different. Alright Mike, hello to everybody who's just joining as well. I haven't watched Count Dankula's video from today yet, but I'll probably watch that fairly soon after the stream. Well, the one without an oral nasal cup fogs up faster, but it also defogs faster. If it's got the oral nasal cup in it, but no Tissot tubes, it fogs up slower, but then you'll have a hell of a time getting it to defog. So the preferable thing I'd say is no oral nasal cup and Tissot tubes if you could only have one or the other. Yeah, thanks Mike, don't forget to like the stream. Yeah, I watched that one the day it came out. Prog Rock, probably, that gaming kid. When we were at work the other day, we put Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds on while we were working. And I always forget how much I like that album when I have like the entire album on. I think they were a universal size, the NBC suit. You'll be able to stretch it though, because they are a stretchy material. Although I do know that people that are like well over 6 foot apparently say it's really uncomfortable to be in one of those suits, but I'm 5'8", roughly 5'8", 5'9", and if I'm in one of those East German suits, I still find there's a lot of baggy bits in it, so I think you'd probably be alright, to be fair. What you could do, if you really needed to stretch it, I have seen Cockneys versus Zombies actually, yeah, that was quite fun. No, I've not worked at Argos for years now. I finished working at Argos in, was it 2016 I finished at Argos? I'm trying to remember. I think it was 2016 I finished at Argos. Yeah, I know Gorillaz. Weirdly enough, I haven't listened for Gorillaz for ages, and then I was listening to Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry, Dare, and quite a few of the other ones. I don't know why it was recently, I just listened to a lot of Gorillaz again, I just did, I felt like it. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, what you could do with these German NBC suits, say, is put it on a hanger somehow, so it's suspended by its own weight and it's not touching the floor. Then put something with weight in each of the leg bits, because then what will happen is the rubber will stretch itself over time. And then, you know, you can put it on after having it, you know, weigh itself down for a couple of days or whatever, and it should have made it a couple of inches taller. But it is a stretchy material it's made out of. It's like fabric coated in rubber that stretches. Yeah, if you had a mask like a GP5 and it's in good condition, it will still hold up really well. There's a video, I'll tell you what the date is it comes out, because this will really interest a lot of people. I don't know how many of you I've told that I've done this video, but it is one of those don't try this at home videos unless you know what you're doing, because I'm a bit dumb doing some things like this. But you know, don't imitate me, because you could seriously do damage to yourself. But I did the video the other day of safely using lye as a cleaner, you know, the sodium hydroxide. And what I did is the video comes out on March the 27th, so in about a week. And because the cheapest mask in the world, or at least that you can buy on UK eBay at the moment, is the Polish MC1, I got a Polish MC1 gas mask and I submerged it in for an hour in a bucket of sodium hydroxide, like water and sodium hydroxide. Then I fished it out, let it dry completely after cleaning it off. Other than the straps and a bit of metal looking a little bit funky on it, the mask functioned perfectly, and that's being, you know, exposed to a pH 14 substance for an hour. So some of these surplus masks still hold up. You know, if you were in a bucket of sodium hydroxide, sorry, for an hour, you know, you'd be goo, but the mask held up fine. Oh yeah, people want to get them down and handle them all the time. You just have to be careful, because sometimes they can like make, you know, bits fall out or knock bits on them or whatever else. That's talc, but it's just put on there to as storage protection, Alfie. You don't have to have it on there. But yeah, even something as cheap as the Polish MC1 mask, or the Czech CM3, or the GP5, any of those masks will hold up really well against incredibly corrosive substances. And even if they're fully submerged in it, so it's getting inside the mask as well. Alright, good. I don't think I've missed any important comments there when I was elaborating a bit on some of the comments. Alright, see you if you're off. The most I ever paid for a mask was my XM28, and I paid nearly £100 for that because it was on an auction. So my XM28 E4, if you want to look it up. And that's because it's an American mask that's hard to get in the UK, and it's worth a fair bit in America as well, unless you're really lucky and you find somebody selling it for like $30. But it was the prototype mask to replace the M17. It's a cheek filter mask. And it's the lightweight one, you know, the one called the Grasshopper or the Locust. I'll put a picture of the XM28 up in the video because I keep forgetting you can do that. So let me put a picture of the XM28 up. Right, there you go. The guy in the background has an XM28 on, the guy at the front has the M17 on, so that should give you an idea of the scale, the difference in size between the two. And here's a picture of two guys, I think it's meant to be in Nam, with their XM28s on. But those are the, that's the XM28, so that's the most expensive mask I've ever actually paid for, was getting an XM28, because they're incredibly hard to get in the UK. But there you go. Yeah, but T55, if you had a girlfriend, you wouldn't have the money to be buying probably copious amounts of obsolete military equipment. So it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Well, an FM12 or a CT12 would definitely survive a Fallout 4 thing. Seeing as in Fallout 4 there's people running around with like either old French or Italian masks from World War II sort of era. A modern rubber, you know, very high quality mask, you know, is going to survive much better. But maybe, Beeben, you could collect free money for that. Not that I'd recommend anybody does stuff like that, of course, but I'm just saying. But you know, everybody has an ism now, don't they, thanks to Tumblr and everything else. If it was at a proper festival, I'd be more likely to want to do it. I wouldn't want to just randomly meet up with random people. Avon S10s now tend to be 30 to 60 quid. I'm meant to be meeting up with Mike at some point this year. We can film a couple of videos when we meet up, because I don't live too far away from where he lives, and obviously I've got a car. But there isn't many like individual people I'd want to meet on YouTube, you know, just because you don't know what they're really like, and I've spoken to Mike for so long on there that he's obviously a real genuine person. It reminds me of that picture T55, which is like girlfriend versus trebuchet. I'll stay on for another 5, 10, 15 minutes, I think, because I'm quite enjoying myself now. And we're nearly at the hour point. I'm seeing if I've got any more of these funny pictures in my pictures folder. I've got one, but I'm wondering if it'd be too hot for YouTube if I put it on. Oh, especially with recent events. Yeah, I definitely won't put that one on. Alright, Callum. Did you know ABC was the old name for NBC? Atomic Biological Chemical. It's like the retro name for it. But you know, then the bombs went a bit beyond atomic. I assume there are still companies that make them, but the problem is yeah, you're either going to look like a Nazi or a neckbeard if you wear a big, like, leather duster kind of thing, aren't you? That's the problem. $100 US is less than £133. £70 would be about $100 US. But yeah, obviously masks in different countries can affect the prices. Sadly, knuckle dusters have been made illegal now in the UK, or they're falling under a lot more legislation. Obviously, I would never condone going around and punching people with them, but the point is that, you know, they're chucking them under the bus with a lot of other stuff that's never actually used in violent crime anymore. Yeah, it's probably, yeah, in the UK, quicker to list the things that aren't illegal than the things that are illegal, I'd imagine. I don't know too much about badges, no. Yeah, you've got to get your really cheap fedora to go along with the leather coat. Then you can have your greasy hair and beard with it. Wear it with those flame trousers maybe, or cargo shorts, sandals and socks. I don't see how they can possibly enforce that. It's like, do they not know what a VPN is? But I'd rather not get too much into politics and porn, to be honest, in a stream conversation. But yeah, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, because obviously you've reminded me of something, Peach. We had a bloke come to our door trying to sell us like, you know, like the double glazing kind of people. It was something like that, even though we have no cold callers sign, you still get them. Normally they turn up in a suit, right, or some kind of like business thing. This bloke turned up in like a leather trench coat with a tie. It was the weirdest looking thing ever, and it was like he wasn't aware that that didn't look professional at all. It was honestly like a joke. Like, if it was really cold, you could wear a proper greatcoat with a tie and it would look fine. But, you know, like during, it was like in the summer, wearing a big heavy leather coat with a tie. And I think he probably had like jeans on as well that didn't look, you know, professional either. We wouldn't be buying it anyway, it's just thought, that bloke doesn't look very professional. I don't think I've got those pictures saved anymore, but there's like it's like the starter pack, you know, image. Oh, here's a picture you guys might find funny. I can't remember where I saved this from, but thought, you know, you might find that funny. What looks like a bit of Soviet bounce. The mask, you can play your Kalashnikov, and the mask, it rises like snake. Yeah, that gets dark very quickly, yeah. He's actually about to shoot himself. The mask, it is alive, you need to charm it. You've just reminded me of that Stalker thing, Fast Flight. Have you seen that Stalker one? I don't think I've got it saved, sadly, where it's like, it's showing where sometimes if you're in a Stalker game, the enemies or like the NPCs hold their weapons incorrectly. So when they normally hold a rifle like that, they actually hold the pistol like that. So, you know, he's got one hand like that, and it says something like, "You see, Ivan, you are always afraid to shoot hands, so you shoot very accurately." It says something like that, the picture. Yeah, it's that thing, T55, that exact thing, that's the one I'm thinking of. But yeah, he reminded me of that when he said that thing. And that's just asbestos in the coffee can filter. You see, Ivan, if we put asbestos in our filters, then we can get cancer even when we protect ourselves. So yeah, you've also got... I don't know, I find some of these NBC sort of Soviet pictures quite funny inadvertently. Hop in! Yeah, that's one of the things that I find quite interesting, is that smoking and inhaling asbestos both damage your lungs, and if you do both, it, you know, is likely to give you cancer at a much younger age. But you'd kind of think if you had loads of asbestos coating your lungs, it would protect your lungs from the tar a bit. But yeah, I'm sure it's because both things are just completely destroying the lining of your lungs. That's why it's actually bad, but you know. I know they used to put asbestos filters actually on, what was it? Cigarettes, that's it. Cigarettes, wasn't it? Oh, there's another picture of Soviet chemical troops. Oh, I'm moving my stream. I don't want to do that. I want to move the picture. But yeah, what have we got on there? Looks like the guy at the back has got a SHM 41 or SHM 41, and I guess the two guys at the front either have SHMSs on or PRWUs or whatever they're called. The guy at the back must be a bit annoyed that he gets the inferior mask though. Anyway, how long have I been streaming for now? An hour and 6 minutes? It depends on what generation the thing's from and what nation the thing's from as well. To see if there was any other sort of funny pictures that were related to that sort of stuff, but not that I can currently see. This one might amuse some people. This is an actual propaganda poster. Right, see anybody's off. Well, that's, I think, a World War II British generation poster. So obviously the point is it's saying don't get STDs and, you know, actually go and see the doctor if you've got symptoms. But they're obviously just comparing it to chemical warfare, because obviously people at the time would be familiar with like what a Mark IV or a Mark V GSR looked like. That's cool, getting free stuff. It's not a Russian mask, it's the British Mark V. Let me get you up the real mask that is. Or are you saying that yeah, no, Britain, that's a British Mark V mask. Let me get you a picture of a Mark V up. Well, here's a yeah, here's a Mark IV. So it's close enough. See, that's the same mask. Can I send that to the back? Or send it back one? There we go. And if I stretch that, see, that's the same mask there. Because that was the standard British Army actual military service mask, the Mark IV and Mark V for a lot of World War II. I'm sure I've seen Death Watch. Let me just get rid of these pictures and then I'll have a quick look for you. Alright, Death Watch. Is that the film where they're in the trench and there's like the barbed wire monster and all that stuff? Is that the right film? Although I've not seen it in ages, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what the gas mask is unless I can find a picture of, like, the film where they're wearing gas masks. Yeah, that is the one I was thinking of, then, Weapon Collector. Yeah, where it's like, the trench thing's like Purgatory, isn't it? Because they like push into the misty trench, and it's a bit like Silent Hill. I'm assuming it would either be a PH gas hood, just going on World War 1 masks if they've got the correct style masks, or something like English small box respirator. If I can get a picture of one of those up. Right, let me quickly post an SBR into the thing. That's a small box respirator. I know that says US, but the US use pretty much the same mask as well. They're called either like English box respirators or corrected box respirators or small box respirators, but that's like the kind of Allies mask during a lot of World War 1. If that's the one you're thinking of. It's actually quite good being able to put the pictures up in the stream. It was only recently I remembered you can actually do that in OBS. Oh, it's because it's a pre-rubber mask, so it's actually like a kind of canvas stuff that the face piece is made out of rather than rubber. No, I've not seen any that sell dual fletching crossbow bolts. No, those are both deactivated rifles. Lee Enfield No. 1 Mark III and an L1A1 SLR, which is the British-built version of the FN FAL. Right, anyway, I'll finish that stream off now because I've been going for an hour and 12 minutes. But it's been a good stream, so thank you for watching, everybody. I've enjoyed this one. We've had a bit of a laugh in bits of it. Problem is that wall can't support a lot of weight because it's crappy like plaster drywall stuff where you could literally get a hammer and hit through that. It's like, you know, there's an actual thin bit of wall in between, and then that's like on either side you've got the like fake kind of cavity wall stuff, whatever they call it. But anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I've enjoyed doing this stream. Hopefully you've enjoyed it as well.